So, where do we want to start?
I know.
Well, I guess we'll see, huh? Okay, so, hey everyone, welcome to the Coder Nerd podcast. I'm Coder,
And I'm nerd. And
and
yeah,
yeah, today we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2. Just wanted to take a second to sort of introduce ourselves. We're just two friends who love to talk about video games as an art form, which is something that we don't think is done enough, or at least that something it's something that we would like to see a lot more of. And this podcast is just going to be essentially a series of conversations between us about games and the gaming industry, and basically what we think about certain things. Beginning with, of course, The Last of Us Part 2. Um, so,
yeah. I'm gonna let you take the lead on this for the simple reason that, as I've told you before, my opinion on this is very weird. And
yeah,
yeah,
I think yeah, I have very similar feelings. So
fair enough.
I've okay, I think first of all, like, um it's gonna be a pretty big difference as well in what we think, not just because of, obviously we have different opinions on the game, but I think the fact that I've actually had more time to think about the game. And I swear to God, like my opinion on this game changes basically every day. Um, I
True.
hold I hold the I hold the sort of my broad opinion of the game is that I love it. I love this game. You know, besides the story, I love what this game does for the genre, and I love what this game does to sort of progress basically the art form of video games. And I think that's a really, really big part of what makes this game for me. Is just how it uses its medium to be as emotionally effective as possible. Um, yeah, so like for me, just coming off of this game, just in terms of raw emotion for me, it was like I all I could really think of was that this is, if anything, I didn't really think of whether about it was good or bad, but if anything, it's an effective experience. And I think
Yeah.
I think you would probably agree with that as well,
Oh
most
yeah,
likely.
yeah. For the most part, it's really, really effective. And to tackle like one of the bigger things that I wanted to talk about, that being the hate that this game has gotten. I think
Yeah.
anybody can agree that the game is super effective, but the issue is that some people don't act well. Not some people actually. A lot of people don't actually like what kind of effect it sought out to have.
I
If you
don't
understand what I mean.
I think I I'm there's a lot of things that I've seen, in the past week I've read a lot about this game,
Yep.
and I I can definitely see a lot of the criticisms that people have with this game as being perfectly valid in a subjective way. And of course, like we literally just discussed this before we started recording the podcast today. But
Yep.
it, I, there's a lot of hate that I've seen directed towards Neil Druckmann, who is the writer and director of the game, um, about him essentially about him somehow being a lazy writer, or that this game is lazy writing. Um, which I think those opinions, I think, are not only just overblown. I just don't think that they took the game seriously enough, or that they didn't want to take the game seriously enough, or however that may be. But uh, as
I
for
mean,
this, yeah,
again, so like we were talking about this the other day. But I think what the issue was is that this concept has been used multiple times pehle, and the fact that I think they expected something different from the world. So again, as I've told you pehle, with I mean, whatever I'm about to say in this podcast, I've probably told you pehle. But yeah, the thing about this game is that I personally am okay with the story. I liked it. It was enjoyable to me. I enjoyed the entire experience. I think it told the story pretty fantastically. I know. At the same time, I do understand why other people don't
Yeah,
like it as much as they
I
do.
think see I definitely understand the criticism, I would say. I mean,
Yeah,
again, that's such a vague statement. That's such a wide berth of things that could possibly happen. And okay, so for me, um, I think we should just you know at least I think I should just outline what I actually think of the game before like getting into the
yeah,
criticism of it. Anyway,
yeah, sure.
so for like something that I haven't heard, nearly enough when people are, analyzing this game or when people are talking about this game. And we should have said it like 6 minutes ago, but spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
sure.
yeah,
It's
so
actually a freaking. It's crazy that we haven't actually said any spoiler yet. So
yeah, I'm
nice.
very surprised that we haven't yeah, so this actually is perfect lead up to this. So if any of you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2, or if you're in the middle of it somewhere, I would highly suggest not listening to this before you complete it. If you don't care either way, then good, you're welcome.
For
But
more reasons than one. Like rather than being completely overtaken by our opinion, play the
yeah,
game first,
I would also say
form your own
if
opinion,
yeah, I think
and
that
see how you feel about it.
I think that's a particularly important point to make, because I know that even for myself while playing this game, the feelings that I were having were just very raw in general. And I for me at least, it became very easy to try and find meaning in something that other people say, which yeah, I just think that this game takes a long time to truly sort of process. um so for me, presuming any people who haven't played the game are not listening to this anymore, um I think the major thing that this game did that was something that I can understand the contempt or hate or misunderstanding for, is that it it took these characters, and essentially it used its characters to portray certain themes throughout the story, which is something that, as a fan of movies, you see it done all the time. And the only reason I'm even bringing up movies at this point is because I truly think that the way that this game told its story, and the way that this narrative structure exists, has, I don't think, ever been done in games before. I think the only game which I can think of which has done this narrative structure before is Metal Gear Solid 2, which actually even didn't do the ending of this game, really. Um, but I think that's the most off-putting part about this game for a lot of people, which I understand. The fact that you have to, at a point, play as Abby, who is the person who killed Joel, and that you have to, you know, be in her shoes. You have to walk a mile in her shoes. Um, I can see how that's a very off-putting thing. However, for me, I to me, when something gets boring for me is, if you do the same thing. And the first game for me is the first game is something that's close to my heart and something that's special. But the I have to appreciate and I have to commend the way that Neil Druckmann and Haley Gross, who are the writers of the game, I have to commend the way that they decided to go about this game. Because if you can say whatever you want, but putting you in Abby's shoes and killing Joel in the first couple of hours of the game, for me, you know, no matter how you feel about that choice and no matter how you feel about Abby, the moment that I saw that I had to control Abby, it just sort of blew my mind. For me, it was just like, because the moment that we control Abby is at an emotional crescendo for Ellie's journey in the game. And the moment that I discovered that, oh, I'm playing as her now, and you're compelled to think, and this is something that I've heard a lot of other reviewers say about the game, is that, oh, we know what you're trying to do, and we know that you're trying to get us to empathize with Abby. And my I think the problem I have most with that criticism is that I think in thinking that you know what's going to happen, and in having certain expectations from the story, from the game, I think that just um I think that makes the player a bit less perceptive to what's going on. And I think if
But okay, to play the devil's advocate here, I think that's kind of obvious that that's going to happen.
I
In
think
the sense that
I
when
think
you kill
it's
off a character like Joel that we played last game, and he's one of the best characters I've seen in games. Like the conflicts that he has. Like I don't remember which review which stated this, but we had an entire game to go through his entire psyche and explore it and explore what he felt, and to kill him off within the first hour, and then asking the player to be in the shoes of his killer. That's a lot to ask. You know, and that's not to say it's a bad thing per se. As I said, personally, I was like, obviously, it was wild. It was a it was an insane number of emotions. But yeah, I can completely understand why some people are not okay with that,
I
and
can I can
that's a okay.
I can understand why some people are not okay with that. I can understand it. But I also see that my major problem with that criticism really is just, I think there builds a certain amount of resistance to the story. Ever since
But don't you agree that that's kind of expected in the way
okay,
that it
so about that, I don't think, and I don't think you do either, right? I don't think that when they were writing Joel's scene, and I don't think that when they were writing player switches to Abby, I don't think that any of them thought that anyone's gonna like this. I don't think there's a person in the world. I don't think there's a person in the world who liked Joel's death. I don't think there's a person in the world who liked playing as Abby. And the reason that I'm even bringing this up is through everything that I through everything that I felt,
Experienced. Okay.
yeah, um, I felt a lot of the same emotions that people who didn't like this game felt. Um, I hated Joel's death. I hated playing as Abby for a little bit. I think the only difference is that the question in my mind while I was playing the game was, what's coming next. And here's what brings me to my primary sort of thing about the game, which I haven't heard anywhere else. And it's that no one seems to be talking about, really what's going on in the characters' heads. I genuinely think that this is a story that utilizes its characters to their maximum potential. And I think it's not a game it's not like the first game where the entire story is based around these characters. I think it's just an allegory for, what pain can do to a person and what guilt can do to a person. And I was so surprised to see that, in all the backlash that this game has garnered. Well,
So
um
here's my explanation for that, or here's why I think that's the case. Like as I mentioned before, this is a theme that has been explored better. It's not something that's been explored in this way or in this medium or with such I don't know detail. I guess I don't know the word for it, but yeah. But to kill off a character that they adored to that degree,
yeah, so
to
to
show themes
me,
that have already been explored and aren't really that expected from a game like Last of Us. You know,
see,
I think
I
that is what
think I
pissed people
think
off.
I think
And
the
I completely
worst
understand that. I really do.
I think the worst thing that this game did for itself was to call itself The Last of Us Part 2. Honestly, like,
True.
I think this story could not have worked without these characters. And
Absolutely.
honestly, I Joel, when Joel's death happened to me, like, as a writer, right? If I was writing this script, it would make perfect sense to me. And again, that's my perspective maybe, but to me, understanding the beats of a story, and a technical as a technique, I guess, of writing, it for at least for me, it worked perfectly in terms of just pure technique. I think the game is it's just great writing, and what it makes you feel is sort of a testament to the fact that it has actually done its job. And I think there's so many
So,
parallels. It's very interesting to me how many parallels there are, to how Ellie feels in the game, and how the players feel in real life,
yeah,
because
yeah, that is true.
so many people felt hurt, they felt betrayed, and they felt this and they felt that. And that's, to me, what exactly all the things that Ellie feels. And, far be it from lazy writing, the for the first time, I think, if the for the first time to this degree, I don't think I've ever related to my protagonist this much. And it's only because of
Okay,
they're
so
these characters.
here's where my opinion differs to a degree. So I know that I mean you've mentioned this before how you don't want to compare this game to the first game, and I agree to a degree. But a comparison is inevitable when I know it's The Last of Us Part Two, not Last of Us Two. But yeah, as I said, and a comparison is inevitable. And in my opinion, I don't know whether it's because the first game has a special place in my heart or whatever it is, but the second game was not able to get me to feel emotions as intensely as I did in the first game. I don't know why
I
that was the case,
think
but that's just an honest
I
account
think
of what I
to
felt.
me and to me
After thinking about it for like a long hard time, because I have been thinking about the same thing
yeah,
for quite
so
some time now.
I think to me, I would actually say the opposite. Like for me, this game hit me on a level that the first game never did for me. I think the first game, the thing about the first game is that um to me it's a much more and again this comes down to personal preference, I think. To me, the first game not only has a much more positive theme to it, it's a game about, you know, redemption, and it's a game about love, and it's a game about
Well, yeah,
and
you know what?
it's
To complete my train of thought, while I do think that the first game was able to incite more emotions, it is, in my opinion, a fact that the second game was basically expanded upon that entire medium and that entire concept in every way, shape, and form. They made it better in every way, shape, and form. But again, as I said, it just wasn't able to get that same emotion from me. And it was more because of the theme as opposed to because of the story itself.
yeah, so that's why, in my opinion, that is the primary reason, like, why I think the first game and the second game are, I'm not going to say they're not comparable, because they definitely are in certain ways, but I think this is like, I think the difference is not just, you know, plot wise or um you know, not just plot wise, but I think even theme wise, and just everything about the game is so different from the first one, where, you know, we have a different protagonist, and the we have a
But
story which is
you
not.
surely understand why that actually can cause uh, certain issues in the sense that the first game set
I
up
definitely don't think that
a
it's
world.
anything. I don't think that I don't think that it's anything that can negate this story being told. I definitely think
See, okay,
that
I'm not saying it was not a great story. It was a great story. I enjoyed the fuck out of it. It was like, yeah, it was an incredible experience. Yeah. At the same time, the themes that the first game set up, or basically the second game does fit in the world of Last of Us, that apocalyptic world with zombies and the characters we know and love. But it does not follow the natural progression of themes or what one would expect
yeah, but
from the game.
I think that is where its strength lies, because again,
But
I
that's very
did
subjective. I
I
mean,
no,
as we can clearly see.
for sure, like undoubtedly, like any you'll see it with every form of art, where if somebody tries to take risks, and um tries to if somebody tries to hold on a second. Okay, so you see it in every form of art, when somebody tries to take risks, and when somebody does something new, that there is, of course, it's breaking convention, essentially. And I think that is the game's strength. I think that if you know, it's done things which has never been done in games before, at least of what I've experienced. um and I think that the primary strength of it is the way that it portrays its story, is the fact that halfway through the game you do play as Abby, and contrary to what many people believe Abby's role is in this game, um, Abby is not meant to be a protagonist in this game. And that is something that's a really hard pill to swallow, considering that that nearly half
See,
of the
I,
entire
I feel
game is
I
played
feel that
as Abby.
neither of the characters are meant to be.
Yeah, so see,
true protagonists because
I think this is definitely a story. I think this is definitely um Ellie's story at a certain level. Even though the
so
focus
okay.
is the
Here
focus
is
the
here
fo-
is what I think. Um, I think for Abby, what they did was they basically showed her progression emotionally and how she started to care for Lev, and that became more important to her than most things, right? But for Ellie, who had basically lost everything that she loved and cared for, you know, revenge was almost obvious. Like it wasn't a question of whether it's going to happen. It was a question of
no,
how.
I think the question was, should it happen? I think that was ultimately, I think that's the question that the game asks at the beginning, and I think that's what the ending sort of resolves in its own weird way. Is, is revenge worth it? And I think the purpose of Abby's entire arc in the game, again, considering that this is a character who you spend half of the game playing as, I think that Abby's character was meant to be nothing more than essentially a mirror for Ellie's arc. In that, we see Abby and Lev's journey, and we see Abby post her vengeance. We see Abby after her vengeance, whereas we see Ellie in the progress of achieving her vengeance. And I think Abby's story is simply meant to be a parallel to foreshadow what can happen to Ellie if she decides to go through with her decision, which I think is a much more powerful thing to do, because we don't care about Abby, right? I mean, like, again, there is the whole argument about character development, but like, let's be completely honest here, right? We would never, and I don't think Naughty Dog is stupid enough to believe this, but we would never ever connect with Abby to the level that we connected with Ellie after the first game, or
Oh,
even
for sure.
in
Yeah,
this game. And I think that's
obviously.
something which, again, this is what people were saying, is that, they probably think that the entire purpose for Abby's character is to show the other side of the coin, or to make us sympathize with her. I actually think it's neither of those things. I think that Abby's journey is simply meant to give Ellie's journey more weight. I think that, for me, the final scene where she's choking Abby, on the beach, the things that I felt in that scene, they weren't, I wasn't rooting for her to kill Abby. I wasn't
Of
like
course not. Yeah.
I and the reason I wasn't rooting for her to kill Abby wasn't because I liked Abby, or wasn't because I cared about Abby or anything like that. It was because I didn't want Ellie to turn into Abby. It was precisely because I had seen the person that Abby had become after all that she's gone through, after all the people that she pushed away in her life. You have a character like Abby who is simply not as likable as Ellie is, because
You know
Ellie
what?
is,
I would honestly argue that Abby is a more likable character than Ellie,
I
and
see, I would say
I have a
in
lot of reasons for that. Right? Okay. While of course I in that last fight, I didn't want either of the parties to die, obviously,
yeah.
and it was tough for me because I do like Abby as a character. She's, in my opinion, her models are they were at least shown to be clearer than Ellie's. Ellie's models were clearly
So yeah, so
in a struggle,
I think,
for
see,
lack of a
again,
better word.
this is another one of the things which I thought about for a very long time. And very long time being a week. But the more I think about it, and I've actually gone back and played certain parts of the game again, a little bit, just to sort of see if I can, like, confirm my suspicions mostly. But I did get the feeling while playing the game, I did get the feeling that Ellie's mindset and Ellie's feelings were not really well. Okay, they, you have certain scenes during which you can sort of tell what she's thinking through the things that she's saying, right? For example,
I think her journal
and
was a
and
big part of that.
yeah,
Her
yeah.
journal basically,
So that's what I'm saying. So, you could tell during certain scenes. For example, I think a very good example of this is the scene in the theater when Dina first reveals that she's pregnant, right?
yep.
Um, I think Ellie's whole demeanor during that scene, how she kind of like fiddles with her hands a little bit while talking to Dina because she's nervous about, her knowing that she's immune, and then when Dina reveals that she's pregnant, and you can see this just impulse take over her, and then that for me was the first moment in the game where I was sort of, I saw her be a bit insensitive, and I saw her be a bit sort of like, which was foreshadowing for what came later, of course. But um, I think Ellie's journey, Abby's journey, I think is way more straightforward for a particular reason, and I think that is because it was just to show us a mirror of Ellie's journey, and Abby, for that reason, is not as deep of a character as Ellie is. She might be a more sh- I don't even know if she's a more likable character, to be honest, because if you think that Ellie is a a good or a bad person, I think that you kind of have to think of Abby on the same plane at the
I
very
don't, I
least.
don't. Okay, here's the thing. I don't think of Ellie as a more likable character, or as a bad person or a good person for that matter. I just think that her decisions were, I don't know, they were not something I can get behind, and that's completely fine. I'm
So
just,
so
that's a mark of a
I
good
think that
character.
was, I think
But
for me while playing the game, one of, like, I mean, the only times the
see,
game
the
ever.
issue that I have with Ellie's character is that there was a huge disconnect between what I think she felt and what she did, and that just sort of piles up throughout the
I
first half of
I
the
I
game,
think, well, okay, so
and more so towards the end. When she's with Dina and JJ is there with them, and she's she's the happiest she's been in a while. Let's put it that way, right?
yeah.
And then she chooses to go after Abby again. And it's not that I don't understand why she did that. I do. But it's that I don't see why that emotion got, it sort of exploded. It sort of came on rapidly. And
Okay, again, if you
it
read
didn't feel like a
if you
natural
if you if you read
progression.
her if you read her journal, for that level,
I did. I did. I think I did.
you will see that throughout her entire journal, Seattle is all over the place. There's actually one entry which specifically states, like, I don't eat, I don't sleep.
Yep, yep, I remember that.
There's barely a day that goes by that I don't think about Seattle. And I think, even though,
But here's why I think Abby is a more likable character in that sense. In the sense that yes, she was after revenge. At the same time, she cared about her friends deeply and would do anything to protect them. And I'm not saying that Eddie wouldn't do the same thing, but at the same time, this is she did abandon Dina, she did abandon JJ, right?
but again, at this another thing,
She
another
was on
moment.
the verge of again abandoning Dina back in the what is that auditorium? I don't know that place they were staying at. She was on the verge of abandoning Dina as well to pursue Abby, and I think that is the main difference.
See, I think there's a big difference I think there's a big difference in what I think Ellie should have done versus what she did. And to me, it would the only time where it would have rung false to me would have been if I wouldn't have been able to think of any like feeling or any reason that she would take those decisions, which for me turned out to be false. Because the more I think about it,
I think
this is
again
how I
the issue
think.
here is that at least in the first game, we sort of agreed with Joel on every step. And I'm not saying that not agreeing with Ellie as a character or her decisions is a bad thing. But agreeing with him on basically every decision that he made, or I mean, apart from the last one that we didn't agree with, but again, we did understand him not telling Ellie the truth. You know, it kind of invested me in that character more than the second
I
game
I
might have invested
and
in her in
I think this
or in
is
Abby for that matter.
I think this is uh
I think for a huge part, what ended up happening was instead of being invested in both characters, looking at how the story played out, it just kind of made me sad. And I know that was the intention of the game, and I mean, for as I said, for a world like that, it's fitting. Like I can't say that's not fitting in that world. Uh, but again, that a decision like that will clearly invite a lot of hate and
yeah, but I don't
misunderstanding.
I personally don't think that, if I think if you're in a position to do it, I don't think you should I think you should write stories that you want to tell. And more
True,
than
true.
that, more than that,
Okay, so there was this. Sorry, completely.
not a
Hello.
second. Oh, are you gonna? Okay. I think more than that, what I think that this I see. I genuinely think that while the first game was what it was, this is like another reason why I don't think that these games are particularly comparable either. Again,
Yeah.
the only thing I believe, the only thing that is common between these two games are really a few characters and the world maybe. But that's you know that's pretty much it. I think that's where the similarities end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
and
again, as I said
the
earlier, you can understand why this is an issue and how.
I don't think that you can blame. Okay, again, let's not forget this game was made by the same creative team as the
So,
first game.
okay,
So
blame is a strong word. I'm not okay. As I've said, the second game is incredible. Absolutely love it. But to have a game that wasn't expected or wasn't set up by the first game after a solid how many years has it been?
7 years.
7 years. After 7 years of expecting something different or something more along the
See,
lines of
I think that
I'm
doesn't
not
s-
I'm not saying
I
it
think
wasn't a brave decision. I'm not saying it wasn't a game.
Yeah, but
I'm saying it wasn't
I also think that has nothing absolutely to do with the actual game. I think that has a lot to do with the way that the game has been received, of course. But I
the
don't
game has been
think
received a certain way because of the
I
first
don't
game.
yeah, but I don't think that see I don't think that should matter if you have a certain story to tell, because again, not again see Naughty Dog has done things which have been um very successful in that way, right? Uncharted 4, I think, again, another game which sort of divided the fans of its base, but another game which, in my opinion, was a masterpiece of character development. And, people have their problems with that game, but like they have a history of. Even though like some people disagreed with that game, but mostly everyone loved that game. Um, so
You know what? I think another
I don't think it's a case of Naughty Dog being, I don't think it's a case of Naughty Dog thought that they were gonna. I don't think this is a game that was made for the audience as such. And this is something that I even discussed with one of my instructors at school, um, at art school.
See, I
and
think
it
another one
it
of
it was this argument of, who do you make the art for, right? Like, do you make the do you write a story because you want to tell this story, or do you write a story to please your audience? Both of which are perfectly valid things to do. Okay, for example, Avengers Endgame, probably I've this is probably the most fan service I've ever seen in a movie, and I could not love it more for that.
yeah.
So both completely valid things to do. However, I do think that in the light of both of them, in my opinion, being completely valid things to do, I don't think that, just because one is completely against your expectations. And again, this is something I not Naughty Dog is not stupid. I'm like, Neil Druckmann has been on record multiple times while promoting this game, saying that some people will probably not like our game, because it's different. And which weirdly, if I'm just to interject for 1 second, it's weirdly developed into this thing that, like, Neil Druckmann is an egomaniac for or something. But uh whatever that may be, I
I don't
think
really
I
care
think
for
I
comments
think
like
I
that. It's
think I think a game or any story really,
honestly, I mean, when people make comments about the writers, I get a little annoyed. Like, judge the game for the game,
for
not
yeah
the
yeah
writer.
I think that's just a stupid. I
The
think
writer is
it's
not the entirety of the game. There are directors, there are animations. Like, there are so many aspects of the game that make it
yeah I don't
immersive, not just the story. So judge
yeah
the game for what it is,
I
not
don't
simply
think I don't
for.
think that's I don't think that's gonna. Anyway, so uh we're running out of time here a little bit. It's already kind of dragged down more than it has, but just as some final thoughts, what do you think of this game as a whole?
Yeah, that's
That's
you
a
wouldn't
deep.
think
That's a
that.
pretty loaded question, isn't it? Like, yeah, I understand
Yeah,
that's a very pretty
you,
loaded
you you
question,
wouldn't think that'd be like a difficult question, but it really
but
is.
it really is.
Uh,
Yeah.
Again, overall, absolutely love it. It's been an incredible experience. That being said, I do think that I still prefer the first game, and I think that the fact that it did something as different and as brave as it did isn't wrong or bad per se, but it's something that was clearly going to get hate, and that's okay. Again, like that's all right. Getting hate is, I know, it's all right. It's understandable in this situation. Secondly, again, like a small point that I really did want to brush over is the fact that most of the characters I couldn't care about them, if you get what I mean. So, for instance, I knew for a fact that all the characters that Abby was interacting with were gonna be dead at a point of time, and it was almost sort of foreshadowing. When Abby was talking to them, they made plans or whatever the casual conversation, it seemed kind of out of place, those conversations. So yeah, so that's why I wasn't really able to care about any of the characters, which was not an issue that I had with Last of Us 2. I mean, Last of Us 1. I was basically like, I understood the motivations of those characters so much better. I don't know why that was. Maybe they just expressed it in a different way, but yeah. So that's why I do prefer the first game to the second one.
Yeah. For me,
That's not to say
of
it's not a great game. It is a great game, and I absolutely loved it. But again, I do prefer the first game. Anyway, yeah, you were saying?
for me, the feeling that, it took a lot to process this game, and it took a lot for me to really just sort of make my mind up about it. And I really think from the bottom of my heart that this, just because of the way it makes you think, um, is just one of the best pieces of storytelling I've probably ever seen. It definitely affected me in a way which I neither expected nor
I agree.
imagined. And just for that, man, like I I'm the kind of person who, like, I don't really care whether something is good or bad. All I really notice and come away with is, did it make me feel something? And for this game, oh my god, it made me feel so many things. So
I get that.
in my mind's eye, however the story went, which I personally think that, tech on even on a technical level, the story is perfect. I mean, obviously we can have debates about that and whatever, but like I think that this game achieved its purpose. I think that this story achieved its purpose, and
I do agree with that.
I
Like on
think
most points, I agree with you
yeah,
there.
I think in that way, it's definitely one of the best games ever made. For me personally,
Yeah.
because of the fact that the first game never really hit me in the way that this game did. The first game to me is not as close to my heart as this game is, because of the themes that it explores. I definitely prefer this game, although that's
I think for precisely those reasons, the first game is closer to my heart.
yeah, yeah. So that's, I think, a good end to our conversation about The Last of Us Part 2, which I
Yeah.
realized that it might have been rambly and unorganized and all of those
Completely
things.
unstructured. Yeah.
Completely unstructured, completely random. But
Nothing wrong with that. But yeah.
this is just something we're trying out. And for anyone who actually listened through about 50-ish minutes of this complete garbage,
And 50, 57
um,
minutes. Jesus. Right.
yeah, 50 minutes. Anyone who has actually been through that, we would love um criticism. We would love to hear what we can do to improve this, because we do intend to keep this thing going in some way, shape, or
Do we
form.
actually have a platform for them to say
Yeah.
anything? All right.
I'll figure something out, man. Come
All
on.
right.
So, yeah, so
As
if
you can
you
see, very planned.
very planned. If you feel like giving us some feedback, in fact, we're actually asking for feedback. Anything to make it better. And if you actually listen to this, well, you deserve a
First
prize.
off, thank you.
First off, thank you, and you deserve a prize. And yeah, this is not a regular thing by
Play the
any
game on your
means.
own
Yeah, not a regular
if you
thing by
have.
any means. And this although we do plan on, you know talking about a lot more things. So thank you for listening, and i hope you I hope you feel like joining us for the next conversation. And hey, we might have, some other people in here as well, maybe sometimes.
Over and
um
out. Can
so
that be our ending? Over and out.
I don't think so.
Over and out.
I don't think. Okay,
I'm gonna
okay.
say it as many times as I have to. Over and
Well,
out.
yeah, we're done.
Right.
All right. Okay, see you guys next time.